Hello, everybody. I'm Christina Ken from Big Beautiful Sky. It's so great to be with you today. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that is triggers. So, triggers are wonderful because they are actually blessings in disguise in some ways. Um, People will try to blame you for triggering them, or vice versa. You will blame others for triggering you. There really is no reason to blame anyone because your trigger is your responsibility. It's really your problem. So, no one makes you feel a certain way. You choose how to react and feel to whatever someone is doing. So, the goal is to not react. The goal is to stay neutral. The goal is to be an observer. The goal is to be aware of the influences others have on you and what situations cause you to trigger. So don't give your power away. Don't react to everyone and everything. Don't blame people for how you feel. You need to be responsible for your triggers. So if you're triggered, you're reacting. So if you're reacting, this usually means you're in a trauma response. So you're in a fight, flight, or freeze state. This causes your brain to sort of move all the energy to the back brain where your emotions are stored and your past memories and traumas. So when you're triggered, it's not a good time to make any decisions at all because this front part of your brain, which is the analytical, logical part, is not really working so well. So please refrain from making any decisions when you are triggered. The goal is, of course, to identify the trigger and then start to question it, get curious about it. When has this happened before? Is there a pattern? What are these triggers telling me about myself? And again, it's really important to calm down. So anything you can do to get your body back into rest and digest, such as breath work, meditation, some light exercise or yoga, great. So when you're in that calm state, it'll be easier for you to explore what this trigger is all about. So rather than lash out at someone or blame them or come up with reasons why you shouldn't be feeling this way, take responsibility. It will pay off with interest times a million. So, again, pro tip, when you do start to get curious and explore your trigger, it usually has something to do with experiences from your childhood between the ages of 0 and 7. Again, there will be emotions and beliefs locked in from an experience that is being unconsciously recalled and causing you to feel triggered. So even though you are triggered, it's not that person's fault or that situation's fault. It's just you remembering something that happened to you that feels the same way. So I think the goal is always to tame your triggers and own your projections and biases. So a lot of times too, I see people projecting their unconscious beliefs onto other people. And again, you really need to do your homework and be sure that you are aware of what's going on back there so that you aren't doing that. And biases, I can't think of anything more limiting than that because if you're basing decisions or basing your perception on biases, you really are limiting yourself too. Um, and here's another pro tip. It's really good to, if you are feeling triggered or someone's triggering you, or especially if it's a family member or partner, talk to them about it. Say, oh gosh, that thing you did or that thing you said really triggered me. I'm not blaming you. I just want to talk about it. It's really important to understand the intent of the other person. If they intended to hurt you, well, it's understandable that you would feel triggered. But if their intention was not that at all, they were just saying something or doing something that they needed to do, or it was just they just did what they did, but there was no intent there to cause harm, then it is all about you. That is your trigger. That is your job to get curious about why that's happening and unravel it. I will say, though, disclaimer, that if you are in a relationship with an abusive person or a malignant personality, if you're feeling triggered, that could be your body's way of telling you you are in danger. So it's really important to do your homework. So for people who are in abusive relationships, you will be in a constant state of fight, flight, freeze. You will be in a heightened stress state all the time because your body is telling you it's not safe, it's not safe, it's not safe, it's not safe, it's not safe. So that's a situation that requires there's a lot more that needs to go into that to make sure you are safe. So please try to distinguish between the two. Am I triggered or am I not safe? That's really important. Okay, so let's talk about examples of triggers. So here's one example. My friend buys a new car and suddenly I feel angry at her. I don't want to be around her. When I dig deeper into this, I feel jealousy. When I go even deeper, the belief I'm not good enough surfaces. I'm not good enough is a belief that I find so often under the hood, no pun intended. It's a belief that will trigger jealousy. So, hence, feeling angry and upset at this friend because they bought a new car and you haven't. So, it's again, that trigger is just an indication that you need to heal and transform that belief that you aren't good enough. And again, that's probably something from childhood between the ages of 0 and 7. Another example, this is for all the moms and dads out there. I pack a healthy lunch for my 10-year-old child. They come home from school with it uneaten and claim they did not like it. Instead of understanding that they are young and simply stating a fact, you react in anger and accuse them of wasting food. They begin to cry and you scold them even more for crying. So in this situation, you really need to tune into your own feelings first. So, okay, yes, your child didn't eat their lunch. That's not okay. They should eat their lunch, but they are children and they make decisions based on their level of development. So it really is up to you to just sit with it and deal with your trigger. I think the trigger here is definitely a form of rejection. Like you've made them a lunch and they haven't eaten it, therefore you feel rejected. And again, it comes back to that I'm not good enough. So really what needs to happen is I acknowledge that that's the trigger, and then you calmly sit them down and say, look, if you don't like that lunch, we need to figure out a lunch you do like, because it's really important that you eat your lunch, and here's why. Number 3, rather than go on your weekly date, your partner decides they want to stay in for a quiet night and end up falling asleep early. Instead of asking them if they are okay and maybe just tired from a long week at work, you assume they do not want to spend time with you and experience anxiety about the relationship ending. So, who's done this? A lot of assumptions here and triggers. Oh, they don't want to spend time with me. And again, it's that wounding showing up. So, in relationships, especially romantic relationships, I'm sure you've heard of attachment styles. So this would indicate an anxious attachment. So again, it's all about checking in and asking them what their intent is. Oh, you want to stay in? Okay, well, I'm feeling triggered. So why do you want to stay in? And they could explain to you, well, I'm just tired from a long week, or I don't feel well, something like that. So it's really important to talk about it and not just assume or react and then get triggered and spiral down the dark hole of rejection and abandonment. Number 4, you see a social media post and the person disagrees with your point of view. Instead of understanding that they have a different perspective, you lash out with an angry comment accusing them of being a bad person. This causes you to spiral into a social media fight with other users, putting you in a bad mood for the rest of the week. Who's done that? So again, it's really important to understand that posts on social media have nothing to do with you, literally nothing to do with you. And for you to feel triggered or reactionary by them, that's pointing to your own unhealed stuff. I'm not saying that there are not posts and things on social media that are deeply disturbing from a moral perspective or an ethical perspective, but you shouldn't immediately launch into a fight with people on social media because of that. It again should be a contemplation should happen instead of a trigger. So if someone doesn't agree with you, that shouldn't really have an effect on you. That's their perspective, that's their choice, and they're free to believe that and choose that. So again, it's all about tapping into, where does this come from? Was there something that happened to me where I didn't feel hurt? I didn't feel heard or seen. So I feel like a lot of times on social media, especially, I'm dealing with adults who did not feel seen or heard as children. So I always try to remember that when I'm talking to people on social media, if I do decide to engage. I remind myself that I'm not dealing with a, developed logical adult. I'm probably dealing with a wounded, traumatized 3-year old. So just keep that in mind when you're responding on social media, and do yourself a favor and just save your energy. Maybe redirect that into some other more rewarding channels. Okay, so that's all for today. I hope that explained triggers. I hope that helped you come up with a plan to start understanding your triggers and understanding or discovering ways that you can start to work with them. I'm always here for you. So if you have a trigger or you're in a constant state of fight, flight, freeze, a constant stress response, please get in touch. I created belief hacking to help you clear and release stuck energy, trapped emotions, and rewrite limiting beliefs. Thanks very much. Have a great day.